Hi, everybody. Now for the second half of Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Unarmed. We are on page 38, and Donovan is trying to convince them to name the robot. It didn't seem to bother the newcomer. Okay, no name. He turned back to the robot. Sorry, Tin Man. Oz on the brain, I guess. He grabbed hold of one of the forks of the lifting assembly and gave it a hearty handshake. With a snap, it came off in his hand. There was nothing lukewarm about the class reaction to that. A babble of outraged accusations filled the lab. Abigail, our team captain, was on her feet barking, "You broke it!" Donovan tried to press the broken fork back onto the chain drive. It clattered to the floor. "All right, quiet, everybody." Oz held his hands up for order. Donovan didn't break anything. The component hadn't been attached properly. He turned to our newest student. "But it's not a bad lesson for your first day in the lab." "I won't mess with any more of your stuff," Donovan promised, chastised. The robotics teacher shook his head. "I want you to mess with stuff. This is a place of tinkering, fiddling, experimentation. But," he added pointedly, "before you touch, ask somebody." "Especially before you touch Tin Man," Luttrell added fleetingly. "He's a delicate piece of equipment," Abigail pointed out, "and he's not Tin Man." I was fascinated. Now everybody was referring to this array of nuts and bolts with circuits as he. Was it possible that in not naming our robot, Donovan had just named our robot? Hypothesis. A name changes an it to a he. Kevin Amari raised his hand. "Even though he's not Tin Man, is it okay if we call him Tin Man for short? The robot is so impersonal." "Maybe because he's not a person." By this time, Abigail was gritting through clenched teeth. "He's not exactly made of tin," Noah mused thoughtfully, "but I guess Aluminum Man isn't appropriate either, since he's also made of titanium, steel, plastic, various polymers, and silicon computer chips." "How about Metallica?" suggested Luttrell. "That's good too," Donovan approved. "Anything but the robot. Poor guy." "SquarePants?" Kevin offered. Because he's boxy." "Oh, perfect," Abigail snarled. "Now all of our hard work is named after a cartoon." "Let's live with it for a while," Oz put in hurriedly. "We don't have to decide right away." Amazing. In a few minutes we had gone from no name to 3, and all because Donovan Curtis had walked into our school. I kept an eye on him through homeroom. Except for the mishap with Tin Man, or whatever the name was going to be, I saw no sign of the buffoon Abigail had described. If anything, Donovan was trying to be friendly. Not that he was getting very far with our crew. Engaging Noah in conversation isn't the easiest thing to do under the best of circumstances, but Donovan was asking him for advice on what to expect in some of his classes. "Well," Noah replied thoughtfully, "math is easy, and the only thing easier than chemistry is biology or maybe physics. Social studies easy, and English, well, you get the picture." Poor Donovan just stared at him. He probably spent his entire life hearing stories about the Academy's killer courses and crushing workloads, and here Noah had just dismissed them all in the space of about 8 seconds. Hypothesis. If you want a realistic assessment of a challenge, don't ask the guy with a 200 IQ. If Donovan had inquired about unraveling the genetic code, Noah would have said that was easy too. "Thanks, I guess," Donovan told him. "Is anything in this place, well, hard?" "You know what's hard?" Suddenly Noah's face was flushed with emotion. "Trying to control your own destiny. It's not just hard, it's impossible." So Donovan shifted gears and talked to Luttrell about the robot, which also backfired. Luttrell got weirdly defensive, as if Donovan had been trying to steal his job as the team's top mechanic. And JC became so genuinely flustered by the newcomer's presence that she asked him which of the Earth's continental plates was his favorite. Abigail went over to Donovan and put her 2 cents in. "You know a Gymboree parachute isn't the same as a real parachute, don't you?" Well, how could I not say something? He was getting to think we were all nuts. I caught up with him in the hall on the way to first period. "Hi, I'm Chloe Garfinkel from homeroom." I held out my hand and he shook it lightly. Maybe he expected to break it off like the piece of the robot. "Hey, don't worry about the lift mechanism," I soothed. "The weakness probably just came from a bad weld that got jarred loose by a chain drive, or maybe too much compression from the Bimba cylinder." He looked blank. "What's it for?" "Oh, the Bimba cylinder provides the pneumatic pressure." "No, I mean Tin Man," he corrected. "What does he do?" "The robot has multiple capabilities," I enthused. "The electric eye can navigate color-coded tracks on the floor. The fork picks up inflatable rings that lift the mechanism plates on various pegs at different heights. And he can deploy a mini-bot that will climb a pole and strike a bell at the top." He seemed confused. "Is that how geniuses spend their time, picking up toys and ringing bells?" I bristled. "You're here, aren't you? If being smart's such a crime, you're just as guilty as the rest of us." He had no answer for that, so I went on in a calmer tone. Noah's the only one who's really a genius, except that work is a little more challenging. How's the academy different than Hardcastle? He gave me half a smile. Are you serious? Seriously? If there's one thing we're good at here, I assured him, it's being serious. Have you ever been to Hardcastle Middle School? He asked. I know we probably take some things for granted, but they're not probably the things you think. If you want to plug in a computer, can you find an outlet with 3 prongs? Can you find one that even works? Will part of the suspended ceiling come down on your head in the middle of a class? Will the cafeteria refrigerators break so you can't buy lunch for the day or a week or a month? Hey, things like that happen at the academy too, I insisted almost triumphantly. Last year, the freezers failed, so there was no ice for. The wind went out of my sails as I realized how lame this was going to sound. This sushi bar. He nodded sympathetically. You guys should get t-shirts made. You know, I survived the sushi crisis. Hey, all I'm saying is that you brainiacs have a nice little racket going on here. I skewed him on that point. Don't you mean we brainiacs? You're one of us now. Right, he agreed, flustered. But, well, I just got here, so you've been riding the gravy train longer. Regular school has its advantages too, right? I didn't want to seem dorky, but I was genuinely interested. Dances, parties, a shrug. Pep rallies, sports, a basketball team is all city. Wasn't there some sort of huge accident at their last game? His eyes narrowed. What do you know about that? Everybody's talking about it. A piece broke off the statue. My voice trailed off. Why did he seem so suspicious? I was only trying to be friendly, and he was acting like this was a CIA investigation under hot lights. I don't go to that school anymore, he said very sharply, almost like he was mad at me. I'm too smart. And he stormed away, leaving me to be standing in the hallway with my mouth hanging open. It wasn't his rudeness that struck me. It was this. Ever since I'd started at the academy, the one thing I'd been yearning for was someone normal. Now, finally, he was here. Hypothesis. What if normal people are even weirder than we are? And we're going to stop there.